Back, dear viewers, and moving forward with our program, the UN Security Council expressed alarm at growing violence in war-torn Sudan on Friday, a day after it reported that 7 million people have been displaced by the conflict. In a joint statement, the Council strongly condemned attacks on civilians and the spread of the conflict into areas hosting large populations of internationally displaced persons, refugees, and asylum seekers. More in the following report.
A UN Security Council joint statement said the members of the Security Council expressed alarm at the spreading violence and deteriorating humanitarian situation in Sudan, reflecting the worsening situation in the country. In addition to the 7 million internally displaced people, the UN said Thursday another 1.5 million had fled into neighboring countries. Since fighting broke out on April 15 between Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his former deputy, Rapid Support Forces RSF commander Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, the city of Wad Madani, 180 kilometers south of Khartoum, had become a haven for thousands of displaced people during the conflict. But the Security Council said fighting had spread there too, causing refugees to flee once again. The UN Secretary General's spokesman said Thursday, according to the International Organization for Migration, up to 300,000 people have fled Wad Madani in Al Jazeera state in a new wave of large-scale displacement. As the rival security forces battle for the city's strong points, shopkeepers boarded up their stores this week to ward off looters, while women disappeared from the streets for fear of violence. The Council called on the warring parties to allow for rapid, safe, and unhindered humanitarian access throughout Sudan. It condemned a December 10 attack on a convoy belonging to the International Committee of the Red Cross and called for the scaling up of humanitarian assistance to Sudan. The war between the army and the RSF has killed 12,190 people, according to conservative estimates by the Armed Conflict Locations and Events Data Project.
Welcome back. Western embassies in Democratic Republic of Congo urged restraint on Saturday after leading opposition members called this week's election a sham, some calling for it to be annulled. 5 opposition leaders called in a joint statement for a protest march next Wednesday. More in the following report.
In a joint statement Saturday, 12 European embassies in the DRC capital Kinshasa and the Canadian embassy called for calm. This came after leading opposition members called this week's election a sham, some calling for it to be annulled, and 5 opposition leaders called in a joint statement for a protest march next Wednesday. The U.S. Embassy issued a call for calm too. Around 44 million people in the nation of 100 million were registered to vote, with more than 100,000 candidates running for various positions. The sheer scale of the DRC, roughly the size of continental Western Europe, and its dire infrastructure make elections a stark logistical challenge. Massive delays and bureaucratic chaos marred the vote on Wednesday, with the election authorities struggling to transport voting materials to polling stations on time. Some stations were unable to open at all. President Felix Tshisekedi, 60, is running for re-election against 18 opposition candidates.
Welcome back, and moving on to sports. Egypt's national football team maintained their position in December's World FIFA rankings. They ranked 33rd globally and 5th in Africa. The story.
Egypt's national football team, currently out of action, have managed to maintain their position at number 33 in the latest, nearly unchanged FIFA Global Football Rankings, which were published on Thursday, 21 December. In November, the Pharaohs climbed 2 spots in the FIFA ranking after securing victories against Djibouti and Sierra Leone in the FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifiers, moving up from 35 to 33rd place in December's rankings. Under the guidance of coach Rui Vitória, Egypt are leading Group A in the African World Cup qualifiers, having won both of their matches and accumulated a perfect 6 points. Additionally, Egypt have already secured their place in the 2023 AFCON, scheduled to be held in Côte d'Ivoire in January 2024. Their campaign in the continental tournament will begin on the 14th of January 2024, as they are grouped with Ghana, Cape Verde, and Mozambique. Among African countries, Egypt's team maintained their 5th position in the rankings, with Morocco 13th, Senegal 20th, Tunisia 28th, and Algeria 30th leading the way. In the rankings of Arab nations, Egypt held the 4th position behind Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria. Egypt's previous inclusion in the top 10 globally was achieved after winning 3 consecutive Africa Cup of Nations titles in 2006, 2008, and 2010. Currently, Argentina remains at the top of the world rankings, followed by France, England, and Belgium, respectively.
Welcome back, and with that we come to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more coming up here on Nile TV International.